So
Mhm.
this whole thing is about, personal reflections, an idea that I have, and we have these ideas, but sometimes we don't have the time or the space to actually implement. But let's see if we can do it with this one. It's called personal
Okay.
reflections, and it's just capturing the reflections of, those that travel or those that are experiencing things working in the church, to share with other folks. So I believe the work that you are doing now would inspire others to be faithful as well. And who knows, in 20, 30, 50 years from now, maybe there'll be some other brother with a camera traveling with whoever is traveling, maybe an elder or whoever traveling as well. So, because I know that faithfulness of pastor, the Lord is faithful, and the faithfulness of pastor is what has inspired all the ministering brethren to be faithful as well to this work, and all the other brothers and sisters as well to be faithful and give their time to this work. So just one man's faithfulness has yielded so much fruit and continues to yield fruit in many different parts of the world.
Mhm.
So I believe strongly that people just seeing us, they see what we are doing and they want to do it. They're like, oh yeah, when they open a temple in my own location, I'm gonna make sure I'm be there and make sure I'm doing everything as well because I see what they're doing over there, and that it just builds like that. So,
Absolutely.
the idea is to just capture some of your thoughts, especially as an American. Uh,
Mhm.
what is your experience like when you went to Malawi and um, Mozambique? What was the experience like for you compared to you being in Europe, compared to you being in, headquarters, Philadelphia?
Ah, well, so I already have had some experience in traveling to Africa because we went to Sierra Leone and Liberia. Um, I think the difference is that going to Malawi and Mozambique is that we had the opportunity, well, at least in Mozambique, we had the opportunity to go to the villages. And I must say that that was a treat. That was a real treat because it gave us the opportunity to see the saints in their living quarters, their conditions, their areas. And also, we got a chance to see how they praise God. And I think that was so beautiful until this day. That's what I was looking forward to when I came back because, we went last year to Mozambique. At least I had the opportunity to go to Mozambique and Malawi last year with Minister Taj because Pastor wasn't able to make it. So that was one of the highlights for me was to go there and just see them praising God. And to me, and like I was telling some of the brothers, when they sing, it is so soulful until I don't even want to hear the music, to be honest with you. I guess the music can be just an added thing or whatever, but just to hear them harmonize and sing and
Let's go back to what you said about just being able to go to the villages and see how the people live, see how the people worship. You said that was beautiful to you, but do you mind sharing a little bit more about what exactly or what parts of it or what about it exactly was really captivating for you? What drew your attention?
so like when we first pulled up, um, Brother Benny, Pastor Benny rather, he
Mm-hmm.
already told the people that we were going to come.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the enlightening part was like the villagers, they came together and they met us at the truck and they was singing and I didn't know what to expect. Um, but from the last time we did it, they did the same thing. But I just thought that was so welcoming is to be able to have them to come together and meet us and greet us and sing songs of praise. And it was just like I said, it was so beautiful. Um, I think that was the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, you had the language barrier because some of them,
Yes.
I don't think for the most part, I don't think none of them really spoke English, but
Yeah.
Pastor Ben and a couple of other brothers, they was able to
Yeah.
translate
Yeah.
what we were saying.
Yeah.
But um, I'm just so glad that, with the experience of traveling with Pastor Jennings, he has always given us instructions on how to conduct ourselves, how to act, and because some situations might not be what we're used to. And you never want to go in and offend nobody. I don't care who it is. I look at it as a privilege because it's like they're inviting me into their space. You know, I don't go over there thinking I'm something, I'm great, I'm above anybody. I'm just a brother. I'm trying to be saved. And this has given me the opportunity to meet you and to see you and to see how you live and to see how you worship. And, you know, if we get into a conversation, I look forward to what I can gather from it. So I think that was like the biggest thing, is having them to come together and meet us and sing and praise God.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So if you think about the conditions that you saw, like you said, you were in the village, which um, for those that would not know, for those that will be watching this, it's comparable to like the rural areas here in America. So what would you say, comparing the standard of living there, and these people don't have much, but yet, like you said, they were praising God and really enjoying themselves in praising God and enjoying the fact that they have Pastor Jennings and all of you come to visit them. What would you say about, the standard of living and compared to where you're from?
Poor, I mean, poor. But so, okay, so I would compare it to, like, by me being from Alabama, my grandparents and my mother and her siblings, they all grew up in a rural area. So back then, they didn't have lights, electricity. I'm just assuming they I don't even know if they had running water or not. I'm not really for sure. But those were some of the same kind of conditions that you've seen in those areas. And I come to find out that the people that live in the rural areas, they mostly use lamps and things of that sort. But the closer you get to the city where you have light poles, those people had they had electricity. So surprisingly, yeah, I wasn't I just assumed everybody had, you know, lights or whatever. But the funny thing about it is people had cell phones. Now, how does that work? I don't know. That's just the power of communication, I guess, but people had cell phones. But if I was to compare their way of living, it's kind of like how a lot of people that grew up down south used to live. Um, and we was talking about this because I was talking to Pastor Jennings, and I was like, even though these people don't have much because the homes are pretty much huts that they then put together like with mud and straw and stuff like that. But it was just, I don't know if I want to say content, or they was just um that was this that's their situation and they're just living in it, you know? And one thing that I was looking at the children, and that's one thing that sticks out in my mind, is that how they was out playing, and you seeing them covered in mud, and because they was outside playing. You know what I'm saying? Kids was outside playing. I don't know if people really can wrap their minds around that, but you don't see that. I don't think so, not here in America too much, because everybody's wrapped up into a cell phone. Everybody's wrapped up into gaming or whatever. So you don't really see children running outside playing and being kids, running, going out, getting dirty, got grass stains on them. That's what they were doing. That's what they were doing. So compared to here, these kids be locked up in the house. They don't even know like how to even communicate with one another because everybody's on a cell phone. So I think that was one of the things that stood out. And it just seemed like they were so happy.
Yeah.
They look happy. And even though they don't have much, they was happy. They have a roof over their head, and they're eating, and they're getting by, however they're getting by.
Yeah.
So that stood out to me. And it was kind of like refreshing, um, because they was happy.
That's right.
Like I said, they was happy. They was living their life. The children was happy. They was fed, and you didn't see nobody crying over their condition. They know what it is, and they working through it. They living through it.
Hmm. Wonderful. So to go back to what you said about why they have cell phones, that's just the commercial interest. They know if they put a phone in your hands, then at least you will pay, even if it's $1 every month, you pay that,
Mhm.
and that goes into their account. So they'll give you a phone because they know, you pay something at the end of the month. But
Mhm.
you are happy because you can talk to your sister at the other village or talk to your brother at the other village as well. So that's one of the reasons why no matter how rural or poor the area is, you will still see a cell phone in their hands.
Right.
Commercial interest. They're just exploiting the people. But the people,
Mhm.
they're just happy to be able to talk to a grandmother or talk to the father on the farm and say, hey, your son is this or your son is that. So people use
Mhm.
that. Wonderful. You shared about, them being content or them being, like you said, happy, playing outside,
Mhm.
enjoying life. Um, Again, compared to what the younger people here in the US have, what was your experience? Seeing the younger people there don't have much in the villages, and the younger people we have here, and there's this talk about this young generation are very, what would I say? They're not satisfied with what they have. They want more, they want more. And there's this
Mhm.
idea of we always want more, but if we can't really see the blessings that we have in front of us because we are in this country. And as Pastor would say, we are so spoiled.
That's true. That's true. So like those kids over there, they could make a toy and be content with it. Here, like I said, kids are so wrapped up into fast and fashion and technology until, you don't really even see kids being kids. Like I was saying, like you saw them outside playing and everything. But another thing is that, especially by me being older, some things I have experienced. So when I was a child, we used to go outside and play. You know, the girls played with dolls, the boys played football, basketball, or whatever. But now I think with this generation, kids are trying to grow up so fast until forget trying to play with a baby doll. Some of them are already having babies, or they want to play a role of an adult. Some of the kids here, they if you look at this generation, the generation is younger and they having kids younger. So it's like kids raising kids. So you see these kids putting um tattoos on children, which is absolutely ridiculous. Tattoos, earrings, cornrows, and referring to them as little pimps and everything else, and sexualizing the daughters to just the way that they dress. And so it's not like these kids are even having the opportunity to experience childhood, to be a child, to think as a child, to act as a child. They're too busy being pushed to act like an adult or even look like an adult. And I think that was one of the things that I found refreshing when we was going over to Africa, is because um, you didn't really see that. You just seeing kids being kids, playing and running and things of that sort. And when we go to these countries, it's some things that just stand out immediately. Um, One experience in particular, and I know I might be going off track with this one because it wasn't in Africa, but we had went to Jamaica one time, and I had noticed that when the kids went to school, they had their pants up with a belt on, and that just stood out to me immediately when I had first seen it. I'm looking at the boys with pants on, with a belt that's pulled up, shirts tucked in. Girls, they had their hair pulled back, white shirts. I mean, clean, pressed, dress pressed, everything just well manicured, well maintained, and just the appearance. Because I think with them, like your appearance is a big thing. Even when I see people like in foreign countries, when they have a uniform on, that reflects, I guess, them and in the company that they work for, and they take pride in that. But yeah, so that was like when you go to these other countries, I think that stands out. And I saw that in Africa too. And it was something because I know one case is that we was in Mozambique and school had let out and the girls had long dresses because I know here most of the times if you have dresses on, especially for those that go to a Catholic school, they have very short skirts on, very short skirts on. They may have some tube socks that's pulled up high, but most of the time their dresses are very short. But over there they had some beautiful long dresses. And I don't know, it's just like whenever I go overseas and I see how the kids dress, it just immediately like grabs my attention because it's not like what we're used to seeing here. Because here in America, you see these kids with their pants hanging off and hanging down and drawers showing and everything else. So, when you see something that's different, it catches your attention immediately.
Absolutely. I agree with you, sir. I agree with you. But again, not to compare because I believe some of these things might probably be, cultural differences, cultural influences, in some of those countries. I know I grew up in Nigeria, in Lagos, Nigeria, and we wore uniforms to school.
Mm.
It's not the case here. I think here it's like an exception to wear uniforms to school. Everybody just goes with normal clothes. But we went to public school as well back home and we wore uniforms to school. And again, there was the element of discipline, like your shirt has to be clean, it has to be tucked in and all that stuff in the school
Right.
setting. And no, just growing up with that, even if you were a rebellious child, the fact that you grew up in that environment, it stays with you going forward. It's
Mm.
going forward in terms of how you conduct yourself, whether or not I always make this joke. I still iron my shirt into a box. Even if I'm going to wear it like immediately, I still iron
Uh-huh.
it into a box. And everybody like, why are you doing that? I'm like, look, I've been doing this all my life. Like, I can't stop. I just can't stop.
Right.
Iron my shirt, it folds into a box. And
Uh-huh.
I take a shower, then I wear the same shirt out. I'm like, why did you iron into the box if you're going to just wear it now? Like, that's what I've been doing all my life. Um,
Yeah.
but you do that here, and people are like, you have so much time on your hands. I'm like, it's not a matter of time. It's a matter of, you've been doing it all your life, and you just have to keep doing it. Because there's nothing
That's
wrong
the
with it, right?
routine.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just,
No, no.
yeah, people maybe don't have time. So again,
Uh,
just want to capture your thoughts about, your experience in Africa, in Malawi. Let's talk a little bit about Malawi now. What was the difference? Did you see any difference between Malawi and Mozambique? Because I know Mozambique were colonized by the Portuguese, so they spoke Portuguese. They speak Portuguese, I beg your pardon. And maybe
mm,
that's why you didn't see a lot of people speaking English.
okay.
They speak Portuguese and other local languages. But in Malawi, they speak English and other local languages. So what was the difference for you?
From the experience that I had there, um, the biggest thing that I can think of is that okay, like more people spoke English, like you said, and another thing is it's more built up. It seemed like it's their construction, their housing. Um, you can tell like it's a lot of people that's probably doing better, if I can say that, doing better in Malawi than probably Mozambique. It just seemed like it was more advanced, and it seemed like you had more. I mean, you've seen some nice houses in Malawi. Like I don't know, like people probably was investing or because I know a lot of times, some people they come to the States, they work and they send money back home. Um, or either some people go back home after they retire. I don't know, whatever the case is, you're just seeing a whole lot bigger homes, well manicured lawns, and yeah, that was the biggest thing that I can take away from Malawi versus Mozambique.
Yeah, again, Malawi is a smaller country, actually, smaller than Mozambique. I think Mozambique is probably at least 3 times the size of Malawi. So maybe that's a factor. We don't know. But also the more prosperous countries now are English-speaking countries, the UK, the US.
Mm,
Portuguese country is only Portugal and Brazil. So maybe not too many people traveling and sending money back home. Maybe. But in terms of the saints, conduct of saints, again, we're not trying to police anything or trying to judge anything, but just conduct of the saints, what you experienced in Mozambique, what you experienced in Malawi. You did mention like, you had the opportunity to go to the villages in Mozambique, and they came to greet you guys with the trucks. Did you have a similar experience in Malawi? Was it different?
Um, well, I do. It's funny. Okay, so now one thing that I do remember is that in Malawi, during service, they have ushers. I would like to call them ushers. I guess that's what they call themselves, as ushers. And I noticed that they go back and forth up and down the aisles, right? If they see you sleeping, they will come over there and they will tap on you and wake you up.
All right. All right.
They will wake you up. They didn't allow you to sleep during service. And I was like, wow, like they really respect the fact that somebody is speaking and they don't allow you to go to sleep. They will come over there and they will tap on your shoulder. And I've seen them do that quite a few times. Some of the people, you could tell they wasn't happy about it. You could look at the expression on their face, but it didn't change the fact that them people would keep coming over there until they woke up. So that's one thing that I noticed. Another thing, I think they probably was a little bit more, I don't want to say standoffish, but they was, I guess they not used to us, never seen us before. So, I guess they just trying to figure us out. But and maybe that is the difference, because in Mozambique we had been there a couple of times and we actually got a chance to go to these places and meet them even before service, versus Malawi, where we just seen them in service and then we left. Yeah.
So what other things did you notice? What other things stood out for you? Again, in comparison to service and conduct here in the US and the services that we have here. And we know that was pretty much it was a convention. So it was not regular Sunday service. It was a convention.
Right.
But what other differences did you notice? What other similarities? What stood out for you?
Well, it seemed like they pretty much conducted their service the same way. They had a praise and testimony service. You didn't see as many people testify, but there were some people that testified. So I can't say that nobody didn't testify, but you saw, I think you heard more musical selections or songs being sung. But you did hear testimonies, and speakers got up and they spoke. Choirs got up. They had a children's choir. They had the young folks choir. They had the adult women's choir. I don't remember seeing as many men involved as far as the choir goes. You've seen them with the young men with the young people's choir, but as far as the major choirs, it seemed like they were all women. And to me, it just seemed like, I don't know, it could be just me, but I think Mozambique was into the service more, in my opinion. It looked like they got involved into the service more.
Yeah.
But I guess another thing that you would have to consider and is that a lot of times, especially I think with Malawi, you had so many different villages coming from different areas that came together. And maybe they're not as familiar with one another as the saints in Mozambique. Because I think Mozambique, they have services a lot, and I think these people might come together more so
often. Okay.
than maybe the ones in Malawi. That's what I'm assuming, because it was just the vibe was a little bit different. With them.
Again, I noticed that Malawi, the services was at the capital, and if those people were coming from villages, it means they were coming from outside the capital of the country. And there's a possibility that they might speak different languages.
Right. Absolutely.
So, there might be a language barrier there as well. And only those that can actually speak English will be able to understand, except it's translated to their own local language. Because there might be multiple local language. I think I actually heard them speaking multiple local languages and translating into multiple local languages, because I may understand a local language, but you don't. So if they are
Right.
speaking your language, I would not understand what they're saying. So again, that might be, but again, these are just assumptions. We don't know for sure.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're absolutely right, because now that you bring that to my attention, that was the case, because you had a lot of people that come from different areas that spoke different languages. Because I know even with the translator, with Pastor, I think it was what was it? Friday, Saturday. I think Friday they had one translator, but most of the people didn't speak that language. So that was the reason why they changed it on Saturday, because the brother that spoke Saturday, he could speak, whereas more of the saints that were there could understand.
Right. Okay.
So you had, yeah, so to the point that you made, yeah, you had different villages that probably spoke different languages.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
made a difference as
Yeah,
well.
I kind of noticed that because I was listening, I was watching, I'm like, I know from my own experience, having grown up in Nigeria, western part of Africa, because multiple languages as well. And you might be speaking a language that I don't understand, and I would not understand, but we are both Nigerians, but different languages. So if they keep translating in the language that I don't understand, I'll just be sitting there like, well, I don't know what you're saying, um, but I'm here. So yeah, I think I noticed that, and I'm like, yeah, they need to be translating in multiple languages, or at least
Right,
in the one that most people understand. So at least most people would get it. Um,
right.
that's great. That's great. So how was that for you actually? You grown up here, I assume only speak English. Um, Seeing other people speak other languages. Um, how was that for you? How was that experience? And I know you've been traveling to multiple countries and you've probably seen this over and over again.
Right.
But I just wanted to hear from you as an African American going to a country where predominantly most people there were, black, but
Mhm.
but they're speaking multiple languages that you don't have a clue what they're saying. How did that feel for you?
Well, I mean, I kind of hate the fact that I don't understand what they're saying, or to be able to communicate with them. But in some instances, I have, because this is a young brother that I didn't talk to. I talked to him from the last time we was there in Mozambique, and I communicate with him even up until now. But that is a barrier. You can't really express yourself and say, well, what you really want to say, unless you have somebody there to translate. But for the most part, it makes me want to learn the language. If I ever go to an area that I don't speak the language at all, I mean that they don't speak English at all, it makes me want to learn the language so I can at least be able to say hello or greeting or something, to be able to just say even a few words. But I don't know. It seemed like the challenge when you go there, they speak faster. I don't know. It's something that I can't really like. French, I can kind of like, kind of get like Spanish, but like sometimes when you go to some of these countries in Mozambique and Malawi, to me, it seemed like it's harder to even understand what they're saying sometimes, because it just seems like they talk really fast.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The
yeah,
language is really fast. And like, wait, you just said all that in
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, but it's the beauty of language. It's the beauty of language when you hear the way other people express themselves. And there's a proverb that says if you speak a language, you have another spirit because you
Mm,
speak in the spirit of that language.
right.
Yeah, like if you speak English, there's a way you speak English, but if you speak some other language, there's just a spirit that goes with that language and the way you behave or the way you move your body or gestures
Yeah, yeah,
while you're speaking the language. So it
right.
was good to also see the translators, especially the one in Mozambique. And everybody was talking about, I'm like, look, the guy just loves the job. Like,
He does.
maybe this brother has been waiting for years for Pastor to come. He's just excited. He's just
Absolutely.
excited.
That's what we had told him. I said, you know, you famous, right? And he bust out, started laughing. Because, yeah, he was
he's just
excited,
excited.
man.
Like I just enjoying myself here. Because he's
He
like,
was
Gloria,
on it.
Gloria. He just kept on, bro. He just kept on.
Yeah, he was
Yes,
on it, man.
yeah, he 110%, like just get
Exactly, exactly. But
yeah.
that's what made it so refreshing is that he was on top of it. You know, he was happy, he was excited, he was into it. You know, it wasn't no dead service, man. It wasn't
It
no
was
dead service.
no one can say it was dead because it was we could see the enthusiasm
Mm,
out of the brother, and we thank God for that he was able
yeah,
to do that and see that I was really excited, particularly about that service because Portuguese, and I know Brazil is a big country, and I know the message is going to get there. The message is already in Suriname, in South America, which is closer to Brazil. So it's going to get
right.
there if you have someone translating in Portuguese. All right, brother. This is wonderful. Again, this is personal reflections, just capturing the reflections of saints that travel alongside with pastor or other people going to different temples, going to different um, places, different countries to worship, and just capturing their reflections on their travels and what they think about other saints and their experiences so far. To wrap things up, what was your biggest takeaways? One, two, three, from the trip to Berlin, because we're going to talk a little bit about Berlin. I know that was a
Okay.
different experience completely for you.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about Berlin, then we wrap up. What was the experience like for you in Berlin compared to Africa in terms of the saints, service, conduct, people? Because again, in Berlin, we had all people coming from different parts of Europe. So again, it was not just Germans, it was people from different parts of Europe coming together. What was that experience like?
Mm. So I'm trying to think. So a lot of times when we go to like some of these services, especially when you talk about the European conference, I'm just thinking like a lot of the saints are from Jamaica. We have a lot of Jamaican saints and we have a lot of African saints that be in like the European conference. Also, because I'm so from like England, you have a lot of saints that are from the islands. Um, from what is that? Uh where is
Netherlands?
that? The Netherlands, you have a lot of saints that are from Suriname. Suriname. I think I'm pronouncing that. You just
Yeah,
said it.
Suriname, that's it. Suriname.
Suriname. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you have a lot of them that's from. So you have sometimes you have these different countries that come in certain areas. So that was beautiful. And you get a chance to see different shades, different languages, different people. So that's always beautiful. But in Africa, you got people that's coming from different parts of Africa too,
Yep.
because we had people that was coming from Nigeria. We had some saints that came from Uganda. We had saints that came from so many different parts. And I was trying to remember because I remember when we was in um, Africa, it was this one brother, he came from somewhere and it took him like 2.5 days to get there. So even though people are coming from different parts for the European conference, it's the same thing in Africa. Because Africa is a big country.
That's
So
right.
from them to come from one area to all the way down, because um, Malawi and Mozambique, if I'm not mistaken, is eastern or southern, because some people
It's
say
southern,
southern.
it's southeastern. I mean, you could call it southern, but it's like southeastern because Mozambique hugs the eastern coast of Africa.
Okay, okay,
It hugs the eastern coast of Africa, but it's southeastern. That's the best description for it. Like it's southeastern, but Malawi is just after Mozambique. They share a land border. Malawi is landlocked.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right. So in that aspect, I think you've seen a lot of people that was traveling from different parts to get to this one location. So it wasn't any difference in that. As far as the service, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm partial, but I might be. When you go to Africa, man, it's just something about just the rhythm, the songs, and I don't even know what they be saying, man. And I just
You know
I
it's good.
feel it. I feel I just feel it.
Okay.
I love it. I don't know. I guess it's a part of the culture and just their bodies are the instruments. They don't even need instruments. And you know, that's what I have always said. It's like, I mean, if you get the music, I guess that's extra. Me myself, I like to just to hear him sing. I like to hear him sing without any music and just because everybody has a place and everybody just fits in perfectly.
To wrap up quickly, what are your three big takeaways from, European conference, African conference, in terms of what we that live here in the US and how we are going about the same goal? Because ultimately we are all working towards the same goal, which is make the first resurrection.
Mhm,
Regardless of the experiences that we are having, regardless of the standard of living or whatnot, it's still the
mhm.
same teaching all through. So what are your three takeaways in terms of how we can borrow from what they are doing over there and the experiences that they have to even enhance our own race as well?
Mm.
Let me make it simple. What did you learn that you can take for your own personal walk with God as well?
Well, and I think this is more so from Africa because I've learned a lot from going there. When you go to a place where you see the conditions that they're living in, but they're still pressing their way, making their way to get there. And I mean, it's no easy way of doing it because, okay, here we got buses, trains, airplanes, cars, whatever. They have these things in Africa too, but it's a lot of people that can't afford that, so they have to get there however they get there. One thing that stood out is just seeing how these people was packed up on these trucks. And I mean, they was jammed up on these trucks, which I mean, it looked dangerous for all them people to be packed up on the back of this truck and standing up. It wasn't like they was sitting down unless you were sitting on the rim of the truck. But that didn't stop them or deter them from coming. They pressed their way out regardless. And it was one truck, it was like an 18 wheeler. So when I had seen them pull up, I didn't even think the fact that people was going to be back there. I'm thinking they delivering packages because
Mm,
I'm used to seeing them in an open bed truck, you know, but I never seen people that was in an 18 wheeler because this is a trailer, mind you, and people have to go inside it and they don't have no lights on or anything like that. But however they did it, however they stood up because the roads aren't the best,
that's right.
but they're a whole lot better than Sierra Leone. I'll tell you that much. So, but they made it work. They pressed their way out, and so we really, you know, I think we are a spoiled people, but we haven't been. A lot of people haven't been exposed to anything, so that's all they know.
That's right.
And it would just make me wonder. I mean, like, what would your press be like if you had to go through those kind of conditions? Because we have things to our convenience and to our disposal until I mean we would. I don't know. I can't. I can only speak for myself. I
Mm,
think I would be making up a lot of excuses, bro.
mm, mm,
In some
mm.
situations, you know, I hate to say that, but I think it's just the truth because we're so used to doing things a certain type of way that until if it inconvenienced us like that, because that's different. That's way different than what we're used to, you know. And I just being honest, I would hope that I would do better, but it was just I could see myself making some excuses some days because that was something because these people was coming from a long way.
Yeah.
It's not like they was coming 5 and 10 minutes away. These people was coming miles,
Wow.
hours probably to get to those services. And
Yeah.
so I just that was the main takeaway, is how they persevered and they pressed their way out through those conditions. And they didn't like to let that stop them. And mind you, if you're on the back of a truck, it's not like if it started raining that they got something to just cover you up. You just gonna ride that out for the duration until you get to where you got to go to. So when Pastor encourages the saints to get out and travel, everybody needs that experience, because there's a lot of things that I have learned from that. And my perspective on life has changed a lot. Just to share this one thing, I remember, my mom would always tell me, make sure you eat your food and everything, because there's some people that don't have food and stuff like that. And from my experience going to Sierra Leone, where you seen where people didn't have much and some people didn't have food, when I came back home, that changed me. I can't say that I eat everything, but I'm more conscious of just throwing away food now just because, okay, I didn't like it. I try and eat it or try and put it up and save it, because it's literally somebody that don't have food. And to experience that and to go through that, that's hard. That's
That's
hard.
right.
That's hard.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So it'll make you more conscious of the things that you do, how you go about doing them, how you dispose of things, how you cherish things more. So, but until you had that experience, you won't know, because you won't know.
No, no, that's true. What you don't know,
Yeah.
what you don't know, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So that's the perspective opener there. Like it just opens you to new vistas, new perspectives, and new realities of life. Like look at what people are going through. I thank God
Absolutely.
for you, my brother. I thank God for you. I grew up there, so a lot of these things I was me. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was me, but I think I'm even getting soft, spending too much time here. I'm getting soft. I need to go back. I need to
You
go back and like, oh yeah,
know,
okay. Get a
I
reset.
know some of the I work with a lot of coworkers, and they always say they need to send their kids over there, because the kids growing up here, and they always say, I'm gonna send my kids back to Africa and
That's
let them
right.
grow up over there, because
You
they
learn to
just
appreciate things
just like
better.
you said,
Yeah.
that makes them too soft over here. And they really do need that experience. I think everybody could use that experience, even if you didn't grow up over there, because to to see what you have to go through and what you have to do in order to produce this, to get this, to go here, to do that, it's totally different than the convenience that we have.
Yeah.
And I think that to me, I think it makes you better in a sense, because if you don't have those things at your disposal, you know how to survive.
Yeah. It just
You
makes
know
you
what I'm saying?
more resourceful because with the little that you have, you can make use of it to the best of your ability. Um, Again, not to say anything bad about this place. Things are good here,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
to an extent, it just makes us soft.
it does.
Just
It
makes us a
does.
little bit soft. And
Right.
my own opinion is I think I need a reset. I need to go back and get reset into the hard life again before I
Hmm.
come here. So again, we thank you, brother, for sharing all of these with us. Wonderful insights, wonderful experience that you had. We pray that your experience stays with you and continues to grow with you. Thank God for you and all the other brothers traveling with Pastor. We pray that the Lord continue to strengthen you as well as you continue on this journey. That's all for now. Personal reflections with my brother Ricky Johnson, reflecting on his trip to Africa, to Malawi and Mozambique, and also a little bit about Europe itself. Till next
Yeah.
time, peace be unto you.
Peace.